Hello and welcome to the Coming of Cage podcast, your Nicolas Cage movie review podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Derek, and your other host, Ryan, is right over that way.
That's right. I'm on the left and Derek is on the right. And we are here today to discuss a Nicolas Cage movie.
Weird. It's kind of break from the
Crazy.
norm. I know, everyone settle in.
That's right. We are doing one of his shortest movies
Yeah,
that we've ever reviewed. The
maybe we should track that. I don't know.
2017 rated R comedy horror thriller Mom and Dad, which I had never heard of prior to this. And Derek had only heard of because it was on a trailer of one of his multi-pack DVDs that he has
Of
for
Nicolas
Nick
Cage, yeah.
Cage. Yeah.
Yeah. Um, I mean, man, calling this a comedy, other than the last act, and we'll get to it, I don't know that comedy really works
I
for
think it's a
this.
black comedy.
I think maybe it was supposed to be. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know that it succeeds, but yeah, this movie's about quote a teenage girl and her young brother must survive a wild 24 hours during which a mass hysteria of unknown origin causes parents to turn violently on their own kids. Written and directed by Brian Taylor, who also directed Nicolas Cage in Ghost Rider: Spirit of Vengeance, and ironically did the new Hellboy movie, even though Selma Blair, who co-stars in this, was in the other two Hellboy movies.
Well, and two of the other three.
Oh yeah, right. I forgot about the David Harbour one. My
So
bad.
did everybody.
My bad. But yeah, stars Nicolas Cage, Selma Blair, Ann Winters, Zachary Arthur, and Robert T. Cunningham. Those are the big five in this movie. And yeah, man, let's talk mom and dad. Let's do it. Let's dive right in.
Yeah, so if you haven't listened to this podcast before, the way I usually do this is that I go through and take notes as the movie progresses, either relating to plot points or interesting things that may happen in the movie. And then Derek tries to decipher what I meant by those notes.
I do. I do. Sometimes it can be a little tricky. I gotta stay on my game.
And sometimes we never figure it out. So we only got one title screen in this movie to start it, which was a nice, you know, break from the other movies. I do think that that pads the runtime for some of the other movies. We get like nine title screens, and then it shows a second time. You know, like you have the title screen, and then it shows like the text,
Yeah.
like
Well, each one gets
in
their
addition
logo, they
to
get their logo screen,
yeah,
and then we get told that it's a movie by
right.
a
And each
something
one gets
whatever
another
picture.
individual,
Yeah.
5-second display of their name. Yeah,
With usually B footage. Yeah, totally. That's
and
a
so
way to pad your numbers for sure.
yeah, and so right away, right at the beginning of the movie, it's trying to establish what is going on because the movie starts with a woman driving around with a kid in the back of her car, and the woman leaving the kid on the railroad track
Hmm.
with the train coming. Well, leaving the car and the kid inside on a railroad track.
Hmm.
So definitely like trying to set the tone there. And then we get this really weird opening credit sequence. It's like it's out of some 70s like black exploitation type movie. And right away you get Nicolas Cage with like breasts bouncing in his face in the
Yeah,
opening credits.
this might take the cake for the fastest nudity.
I think it probably does, yeah.
I mean, I think that's probably the case. It
And it's
might be the
weird
case
because
for any movie I've ever seen.
there's like a context for that later in the movie, but why they chose that shot for this opening is weird for
Well,
me.
and what's interesting is it's not Nicolas Cage in that shot.
No,
It's
that's
a
true.
younger. So this is the only interesting fact I have really about this whole
Was that his
movie.
cousin
It's not. What's weird about that
or
scene,
whoever it was?
it's actually used in another production. So this is super strange. Where is this at? Um, this was used in The War on Easter, which is another production where Brian Taylor was involved in directing the episode that this showed up in. It's the exact same sequence used in two completely unrelated productions. So not only is it not Nicolas Cage in the shot, it's not even like a unique shot to the film, but it's used to introduce the Nicolas Cage character.
I mean, it
And
does
is
kind of look like him. I thought it was
yeah.
maybe his cousin or whatever that. Remember that guy I sent you that looks a lot like him? In his family. I
Hmm.
thought it was his cousin, but
No, I mean, certainly it's believable. You know, it is just an odd choice, especially considering it is that because we get to see more of that scene later, is the only instances of nudity in the movie,
I don't think that's accurate.
isn't it?
No, I'll have to go. I probably have it in my notes somewhere, but I think there's another scene.
Outside of the car, because they should come back to the car like three times.
I think
But
so,
interesting. Okay.
but maybe I could be wrong. But I swear I remembered another scene.
Okay.
Um, so then we get like a scene where we're at Nick Cage's family's house. Nick and Selma Blair are married,
Hmm.
and it's kind of an unhappy marriage. Nick doesn't really want anything to do with his family, and uh, it's very weird. It's very kind of this movie is almost kind of anti-family
Oh
in the way
yeah.
that it presents a family. Like if you would watch it, if you were an alien watching this movie, you would be like, why does anybody want kids or a wife?
This definitely harkens to two things. One, back to the old days of sitcoms where, you all like the husband and wife just hated each other for whatever reasons that they had for the show. And then also, I think the point of this movie, if you can say that it has one, is like adults who regret having a family because they don't get to do whatever dreams they thought that they had when they were younger or whatever seems to be just the point of the movie. And I'm not sure that that is worth it. I don't know. I did not relate to this movie in any capacity. As a husband and father, I did not relate to this movie at all.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a little bit of a difference of opinion about this movie, just based
Maybe.
on your reactions up to this point. Um,
Interesting.
yeah, so they're having like breakfast, and the news is on, and there's the news story about the woman whose car was left on the train tracks, and Nick with his son immediately makes a joke about like the child dying.
Yeah.
And this is before, because we read the synopsis of the movie earlier. This is before like the mass hysteria happens to most adults.
Yeah, it seems to spread almost like a zombie outbreak in a way.
I think it's meant
So
to kind of, yeah, like resemble a zombie outbreak.
it's a little Shaun of the Dead in the way it spreads.
But it's also kind of unclear as to how it spreads. It's hinted that there's like something with the static, but whether it's the visual or the noise
I think
or
it's the
both,
noise. I think it's the noise because of what happens to Selma Blair's character, Kendall, because she's in a car with the radio. So I think it's the noise.
yeah, something, yeah, because she's not the only character that's like that too. But then they make sure to show the visual too several times, which is I don't know. The whole thing is a little confusing, but it doesn't.
Yeah.
We don't really need to know. There's a lot of things about this movie that you don't really need to know, and you just kind of like, okay, you know. Um, so then we get our first bit of casual racism in this movie, or casual discrimination, I guess, when the mom, Selma Blair's character,
Oh,
the grandpa is talking. Oh, one of the kids, they say that grandma and grandpa are coming over, and somebody says something about how grandpa just talks about all the times he killed Charlies, and Selma Blair's apologizes to her housekeeper, um, and her housekeeper is not Vietnamese or Charlie. Her housekeeper is Chinese,
uh-huh.
and
Yeah.
it kind of seems like they've had this housekeeper for a while, so you would think that she would have some idea, and this wouldn't be like the first time that that's come up, but
Well,
here
I
we
mean, I guess we don't know which part is the ignorance. Is the ignorance on who Charlie is, or is the ignorance on the housekeeper's background? I mean, I don't really know. Either way, it's
Or it
bad.
seemed more like that she just assumes that any Asian person is Vietnamese or something. Like they're all the same. That's the
I
way
mean,
I took it. But
I think that's a fair way to take it. It's clearly a negative situation.
so we get a scene of the mom taking the daughter out. So there's definitely basically is trying to set up that there's a very strained mother-daughter relationship here. The
Hmm.
daughter is not a great person,
No.
stealing from her mom to buy drugs. Um, the mom seems to be an all right person. I don't really, nothing in this movie would suggest to me that she really is a bad person. She more just like wants her family to work.
Yeah, I mean, I think there are two likable characters in the entire movie. I think she is one, and I think the boyfriend Damon, played by Robert T. Cunningham, is the other. I don't find anybody else likable in this movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair.
So I think you're right. I think she just desperately wants a happy family,
Yeah.
and she's very aware that the family is unhappy and unhealthy in many ways, and then it just makes her very sad, and I get
Which I
that.
think it kind of goes back to that trope you were talking about with sitcoms,
Hmm.
with where the mom is the one that's constantly trying to make things work while the dad is, sitting on the couch drinking a beer
Yeah.
or
Hmm.
whatever.
Right.
Um, so Nick has this. This is a very cagey movie. Very cagey. With the last few we've done have not been super cagey. This one made up for that and then some. I mean, he got to like really, really do his thing. But we get the scene before he really starts going nuts, where he's playing with his son, but in a super threatening way, in a way that like I feel like that kid would have been traumatized. I think the director was trying to do something where he wanted you to feel like the kids were in danger all the time in this movie, even before the thing kind of came
Yes.
off.
Because like we're not supposed to know when it happens,
It's
right? Like it could happen
foreshadowing.
any second. It's
It's
still
kind of it reminded me of Shaun of the Dead. You brought
yes.
up that where you see like the people doing zombie-like things in
Hmm.
the background before the zombie thing happens.
Yes.
Very much an Edgar Wright kind of vibe with the way that it was handled. Although I don't think it was as successful as Edgar Wright usually is, but you could tell he was going for that kind of a vibe.
Completely agree.
Um, yeah, so we go to an I don't remember what led into this, but we get another shot, or we get the actual shot of the this Trans Am doing donuts with a girl in what's supposed to be Nicolas Cage's lap with her breasts out,
Hmm.
like in his face.
Yeah, so we get the same nudity, but again.
Let me ask you, because we do something we haven't talked about yet, is that we do a bingo card with common things we find in these Nick Cage movies, and one of those things is both woman on top sex and Nicolas Cage has sex.
Yes.
Do you think they were having sex in this scene?
So that is a good question. I was hoping we would discuss it. Off the cuff, I feel like the answer is no,
I would agree with that. Maybe we need to watch that
unfortunately.
other movie that this shot was used in and
For the
see,
context.
yeah, see if it has a larger context there.
That's funny. Yeah, that's Keijo Bingo is what Ryan's referring to, and we film that separately. We release it on other social apps like TikTok and things like that. So you can find out if we get a bingo in our Keijo Bingo. I don't know yet. We'll find out, but I don't think they were having sex, which is a shame because that, like you're saying, that's two different possible squares
Two
depending on
for
your
one,
card.
yeah.
So I
And
just don't.
nudity, so really it's
Well,
three.
that's fair. Yeah, it's
But
three
that
three in
one's,
one shot.
yeah,
That was even filmed for something else, but whatever.
yeah. So we get this scene in here that's kind of a weird scene that doesn't really have any resolution. Um, there's the daughter and a son, and the son is much younger. And we get this scene of him like finding something on the ground, and then he scoops it up into a box
Oh,
and
the thing that
puts
the
it.
birds are like tearing at or whatever. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
And so it's presumed that it's some sort of hurt animal of
Hmm.
some kind. And he puts this thing in a box and puts it in his dad's Trans Am in the garage, which he was told to never touch.
Yeah.
Um, and he goes and gets some Fruit Loops in the middle of the night. What seems to be very late at night. I don't know. Maybe it wasn't middle of the night, but it was definitely later at night. It was dark out. He goes and gets Fruit Loops and starts trying to feed whatever this is Fruit Loops. And presumably it eats some, it seems to,
Hmm.
at this point. And so he leaves it in the car and comes back the next day and it's dead.
Yeah.
You can hear the flies circling and everything. And his dad opens the garage at the exact same time that this kid discovers this dead thing. And his dad just freaks out.
Hmm.
Nick just freaks out about it. Um, but we never find out what this thing is or what relevance it has to the story, really, other than to say, don't touch my car.
So you're right that we never find out what was in the box. I assume it was like a rabbit
Yeah.
based on the noises
But
that
we
it
don't
was
know.
making, but we don't know. I do think the point is explained because there's a scene later where Nick is talking to his son. So Brent and Josh are talking to each other, and he's explaining the significance of the car. He's explaining like what his dad's types of punishments were, and I think it was again, I'm not sure this movie executes well on these things, but I think the point was to show more on their relationship about how maybe his dad was above and beyond on punishments. Maybe his dad was even abusive in some way we don't know, and he's trying to do better than his dad did, is what I think this is trying to illustrate. Again, not sure it does a good job with that, but I
But
think that
he's
was
a
the point.
bad dad anyway. So what does
Yes.
that have anything to do with anything?
Well, I think the idea is to show we don't know how much time has happened between these moments. I think it's to illustrate that there was a time where they were happy, right? We see the dad and the son happy together, the kids eating an ice pop and the dad's drinking a beer. You
Talking
see,
about how he gets so much pussy in this car.
I'm not saying I'm not saying he was ever a good dad. I'm saying they were happy. And there was also, the mom and the daughter doing like makeup together. Like there was a time where they were a happy, cohesive unit. And that is now in the past. And they are no longer a happy unit, right? However much time has passed, whatever that, I think that was what it was trying to show.
Maybe. I still think that's a lot of a stretch, but
Again, I don't think it executed it well, but I think that's what they were trying to do.
fair enough. So before this, we got some scenes of the daughter texting her boyfriend. And apparently he's going to go take a big test in school, SAT or
The
ACT or
PSAT. Yeah.
sure, there you go. Um, and so he has been studying for that and has no time to do anything because he's been studying for that. But she wants to hang out and blah 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 blah. Well, we get the scene of him taking the test, and as he's taking the test, all these parents start to congregate outside the test hall,
Mm-hmm.
which is weird.
Very zombie-esque again is another example
Yes.
of that.
Um, and so then he finishes the test with 20 minutes to spare and walks out and walks through this pile of parents, and they don't pay any attention to him.
Mm-hmm.
And he looks down at his phone or something and then gets back up, and all the parents that were there are gone now,
Yeah. They're inside.
presumably. They
Well, I
all
mean,
went inside in that amount of time,
because the
and there
door
was
he
no
had the
sound or
door
anything.
open and they just followed into the
Is it
door.
vampire rules where they can only go in once they're invited in or something?
That was unclear. Maybe the door was
Because he
locked
could
from the
just open.
outside. So
Okay.
there were no interruptions or something because it was a test. That I don't have a good answer for. But you kind of see that again later when the school's being evacuated. The parents initially they're just outside the fence, not really doing anything. And it's not until like a kid tries to go over that they're like, "Oh, we could do that too." Like, I don't know.
Yeah, so that's basically what happens next. We cut to like the outside of the school, which is completely fenced in, apparently. And
Yeah.
there's a ton of parents just waiting outside this fence and a ton of kids waiting just inside this fence by like 10 feet in. And there's a bunch of police officers in between them.
Mm-hmm. Because like reports are coming in, we're hearing small bits and pieces. Like clearly, shit's going down.
Right. This is where the plot started to get a little what where are the parameters of this plot? Because we have these police that are on the inside with the kids.
Hmm.
Presumably the parents were drawn here to kill their kids
Yes.
based on the plot of the movie, correct?
Right.
So why are the police not drawn to go kill their kids?
Right. So this is a problem at the hospital too.
Yes.
The only explanation I have is these happen to be people who don't have kids.
All the police at the school don't have any kids and
It's
at the
the
hospital.
I'm not saying that like practically makes sense, but for the plot, that's the only explanation that works.
It's an odd, yeah. It just, yeah.
Right?
Anyway,
I mean,
um,
now there is an argument to be made that we still don't understand the transmission of this, and it clearly takes time because Kendall, Selma Blair's character, doesn't get impacted by this until way later compared to other people, right? And she's actually around the kids more than like the dad, and so I don't understand how it's transmitted necessarily. So maybe this is a situation of, well, the police are all on duty, so they couldn't be around whatever the signal is that was required for this. But if
all
this,
of them.
dude, I'm not saying it makes sense. I have a lot of issues with this movie. I'm just trying to explain these things in the plot, right? It's some type of like static, whether it's static on the TV in the hospital room, static over the radio.
Is it a specific static or is it any static?
I don't know because you would think that police are going to hear static a lot across their radios because their radios are on literally 24/7,
Yeah,
right? So you would think that would be a problem. And then there's also the thing of like this is a 2017 movie. It's not like a 1994 movie or something. How often are people hearing static in 2017 like on a normal day to day?
right. So you don't really get a lot of static on your phone
No phone. My TV, I mean, most people are on like digital cable. There's no static on digital cable. The signal just drops out. It doesn't go to
unless it's
static.
something that is transmitted on purpose through multiple.
And there are some news segments that allude to maybe it is some type of attack, but again, we
Yeah,
get zero explanation.
right. So yeah, we got all these kids at the school and all the parents, and like one of the parents gets eye contact with her kid in the school and is like, come over here, like go past the police. And so he goes and starts climbing the fence, and all of the parents start grabbing at him to pull him over, even though like parents don't care about killing other people's kids. They only care about their own. And
That's another thing that doesn't necessarily work either.
basically the mom grabs the kid, gets him down there, and stabs the shit out of him right in front of all these other kids. And that's when all the parents apparently have forgotten that they can climb a fence, and they start climbing the fence, and it's a melee. And
The reaction of parents to other parents and other kids is inconsistent at best in this. Because later in the movie, Kendall is not moved at all when she finds the housekeeper's kid dead in the trash can.
yeah, she's like, "Oh, there it is."
Right. Like she's just, okay. It could have been, an empty can in there So I don't really understand those details.
Yeah. Well, the daughter and the daughter's best friend, who's also a terrible person, escape from the school.
Well, this is
And
the effect that we have with Nick, where like Nick is a bad guy, but everybody's worse. So
right,
Riley is worse than Carly is, so Carly can look like the protagonist,
right,
right?
the hero at the end of the movie, yeah.
Yeah.
Um, but her boyfriend got out much earlier because he passed or got through the test quicker. So he's already gone home. And he gets home and his dad is like slumped over on the couch with a beer in his hand, which is apparently a thing that happens a lot for him based on his reaction.
Mhm.
And so he starts cleaning up the house, and you just kind of feel really sorry for this kid. And then some static comes on the TV, I think, and the dad starts attacking the boyfriend, and the dad breaks a bottle to stab his kid with and slices his arm. And instead of finishing him off right there where he could have, because the kid was just crouching on the ground, he gives him some time to get up. And, he tries to chase him, and he immediately slips and falls and stabs himself in the neck with the bottle and still tries to kill the kid while he's like bleeding out.
Yeah. I mean, he was clearly intoxicated, right? Because I think, we see when Damon gets to the house, his dad's got like a can of beer in his hand or something like that. Like, so I think he's like drunk, but he's being compelled by whatever this is. So he's
Yeah.
clearly not on his A game.
Yeah, so he takes care of the problem himself by stabbing himself in the neck. So then that kid is presumably safe. Nope. Nope, he's basically John Wick that can survive anything.
This poor kid.
Um, then Dr. Oz shows up in his cameo,
Yep, great.
which was the worst part of the movie, probably.
I don't
Talking
know. I don't know
about
about that,
whatever's
but
going on. I mean, Dr. Oz.
he's terrible. But this is also, I think it's a bad movie.
We had heard uh Selma Blair's character had mentioned several times that her sister was pregnant and getting ready to give birth at any
Today of
time.
all days.
Yeah, yeah. And so she goes out with like her friend, and it's her friend is terrible, and they're like doing hot yoga or something. I don't know. They're doing something, and she gets the call that her sister's having the baby. So she goes to the hospital. Um, and yeah, the sister gives birth. And they start to hand her the baby, and she seems like everything's going to be fine. But then, like, some static comes on the TV, and she's immediately trying to crush this newborn. And I have to say that she would have crushed that newborn, and it would have been dead.
Yeah, I mean that scene takes way too
Because she's
long.
like crushing as if you're trying to strangle a full grown adult, but she's
Yeah.
like crushing a newborn baby's body. And a newborn baby has no protection from that. Even the weakest adult you can imagine would be able to crush that without any issue.
I don't see how this would have been a problem for her at all. She's fully awake during the birth. She's in a ton of pain during it, so she's very aware of what's going on. And it takes like, I don't know, two hospital personnel to like hold her back. Like she's clearly like
Yeah, full
ramped on
strength.
adrenaline, ready to go on this. So it doesn't make sense that the baby survives other
Well,
than
we don't
that.
actually know if the baby survives because it gets taken away and then we never hear about it again.
I mean, okay, that is
But yeah,
true,
survives the
but
moment.
that, yeah, and that scene survives. Um, other than the fact that maybe the movie they just thought that was a bridge too far for the audience.
Yeah,
I
I
mean,
mean, that's a tough one to sell, especially if you're marketing the movie as a comedy. Even a dark comedy, watching a newborn baby get crushed to death is probably not gonna fly super well.
no, no, I don't think so. I think I'm of the opinion they probably should have just written it a different way so that scene just doesn't
Yeah.
have to happen. Then, if you're
Or
not like,
off screen or something like that. You
because like
know.
there are some chilling scenes in there, like they cut to the nursery and all these like dads are like outside the glass of the nursery, right? None of them are breaking through it or anything. It's still an
Even though
ominous
they
scene.
could.
Yeah. Well, it's got that wire stuff in the glass and
Yeah, but they
everything,
could
but
just follow the nurse in when the nurse opens the door to bring a baby in there.
typically
Like
that door is not
there's
accessible.
ways to get in. It's
I mean,
not hard. If your whole goal is to kill your child and you will do it by any means necessary, then that is not hard to do.
so that's what makes kind of the whole rest of the movie kind of curious because seemingly this is all like reptilian brain instinct type stuff. Dr. Oz is talking about the pigs and everything. But clearly Brent and Kendall are like they still have all their wits about them, all their problem solving
And they're
skills.
clever,
They're
yeah.
clever, they're witty, they're sarcastic, right? They're clear. It's like an evil switch was turned on, and that's the only difference with them. But everybody else is kind of more
Dumb.
zombie,
Yeah.
right? I don't, is that just because those things happen later and the exposure just takes some time for them to get used to? I don't know. Again,
Unclear.
not explained, but that's the way the movie plays out.
Yeah. Yeah, you covered the babies, the dads watching the babies. The so Selma Blair is able to get the baby away, and a security guard and a nurse come over, and they're like, "We need to take this baby." And so she gives them the baby, and then there's never any other information about that baby
No, nope,
for the rest of the movie,
nope.
or the sister.
No, or the sister, no, no, or her husband, who's not the actual dad, and that's not that again another thing that's not really explained.
Yeah, that they mention but they never explain. Um, so we get the scene of Nick sleeping at his desk at work
With porn playing.
with porn playing. Um, and I hadn't put him down as Nick plays an asshole yet at this point because some of it could have been kind of explained away as he's stressed out from his job and like he's not a bad guy. But his wife calls to talk to him because she's in a panic having just seen all this happen. And he tells the secretary that he's not there.
Mhm.
And so at that point, I was like, yeah, Nick plays an asshole for sure.
Well, and the secretary's like in on it. Like he's joking with her about, especially not my wife. And she's like, ah, ha, ha, ha. So like, are they screwing on the side?
I don't know. Unclear.
Unclear.
Um, so Nick goes home. And at the same time, the daughter and her boyfriend. Okay, so the daughter witnessed her friend get killed. They went to her house first,
Hmm.
and the mom was there, and the mom strangled her to death. And then was like, "Hey, how's it going?" So like, and so the daughter ran and met up with her boyfriend, and now they're going to their house to try and get her brother because she's there with or he's there with the housekeeper.
Right.
Um, well, they get in there, and the housekeeper is like, "Do you want me to make you a sandwich? Why are you home from school?" Blah blah blah. And the housekeeper had just murdered her kid with
Right. We see her daughter earlier in the movie.
a meat tenderizer. And she's mopping up the blood from the floor. But
And
the
this is
daughter,
another kind of strange example because like she doesn't seem to know that it's blood that she's cleaning up. She's complaining that the floor is dirty, right? So
yeah,
it's like there's still that mental disconnect that Brent and Kendall don't ever seem to have.
right. And so the daughter tells her to leave, and so she leaves, and the daughter goes up to get her brother, and Nick comes home and sees the boyfriend and proceeds to slam the boyfriend's head into like the ground
Hmm.
with his whole body weight behind it. And he's unconscious for seemingly hours of this movie.
It's a while.
Yeah. Um, the kids, the son and a daughter run down to the basement and hide in there from Nick, who is searching for them. And they lock the door and they see the pool. There's a bunch of wood broken up in the basement. And then it cuts to like this flashback of Nick building a pool table in the basement and Selma Blair coming down and asking him why he's making his own man cave and him talking about, how they deserve a space away from the kids. And we get probably the one of the cagiest scenes of the movie with him singing Hokey Pokey and taking a sledgehammer to this pool table.
I mean,
Do
he
you agree
loses his
that?
mind in this scene, right?
Yeah,
He
big
he
time.
fully snaps. This is full like rage destroying this thing that we get
Not the
several
movie Rage,
a
another Nick Cage movie that we reviewed, but the
long time
emotion,
ago. The
the
emotion
emotion
rage
rage, yes,
destroying this pool table that we have watched, multiple shots of him like he built this pool
meticulously.
table meticulously, like which I didn't even
He
really.
ironed the felts, like he's doing every bit of it.
He's leveling it and
I
everything.
mean,
I
it
didn't
seems like it was a kit, but still,
still,
he did build it himself. Yeah,
I can tell you if I had a pool table, other than like putting the legs on, I think that's about all the building I'm doing.
fair
Um,
enough.
but yeah, so clearly this meant something to him. This was an outlet for him, a release
And
for him
probably
in some
not
way.
cheap.
I can't. I mean, yeah, pool tables are expensive anyway, but and he just destroys this thing, loses his mind. He's clearly having a breakdown. I mean, there's a bit of midlife crisis in here as well. This idea of midlife crisis, right? This is where, stereotypically guys, buy the big red sports car, or they, I don't know what they do, but they have their nervous breakdowns, their midlife crisis. This is him going through his.
Yes. Um, and so at the same time, Selma Blair is like driving quickly to get home to her kids. And at this point, we're not sure. She's been around the static, but we're not really sure if she's been affected or not.
Correct.
Which I thought that was a part of the movie that was handled pretty well. Is, is she or is she not, or what's going on there? Um,
Well, I mean, I don't necessarily disagree, but when the like the movie just doesn't explain stuff, I don't know if that was on purpose or not.
Fair enough. But like it's ridiculous. It's crazy because the people in this movie want to kill their kids so bad. There's a woman that is walking her like pushing a
Mm,
scooter and
stroller.
throw or stroller and throws it in front of Selma Blair's car as she's
Yeah.
driving. But like, there's probably a lot of other ways that woman could have killed that kid, but way before that. Kids
But
are
we
not durable.
but we don't know how she was like how they're affected when it happens. Like that's part of the problem here. Like so much of the movie is inexplicable because the movie does no explaining.
Yeah,
So I don't know if these things make sense or not because I don't understand the rules. And if you're
yeah,
doing anything that's sci-fi, fantasy, anything like, you have to give me the rules of this universe for it to make sense.
well, that's not always true. In
I
a lot
mean,
of horror movies, they don't explain any rules, and
and
people love those movies.
well, but a lot of them are considered like B grade movies or B horror films. Like,
I would consider this a B grade film for sure.
okay, but does that make it okay then to just not explain any of the shit?
I mean, no, not necessarily, but I don't think it's any like we don't know Freddy's origin in the very first Freddy movie,
Sure, we do.
kind of.
But come on, that's explained.
You can't really like
Freddy's not a good example.
okay. Well, you've watched enough slasher movies to know that we don't really always get like the explanation of where this horrific entity comes from, the thing.
Yeah,
We
no,
don't ever know any of that.
well, we know it
But
comes
that's
from
okay.
space. We know it comes from
Okay.
outer space.
We know that this is a
But
TV signal. Like
but we
I
know,
don't
well, we don't know that though, right? Because it
or a
happens to
radio
Selma Blair
signal.
over the radio. Or is it the static? Do you have to hear it? Do you have to see it? How long does it come to take effect? Like
Well, we
in
don't
the
know what
thing,
planet the thing comes from. I mean,
no, but we do get to understand by the end of the movie, we know the rules of the creature. We know what it can and can't do, and that's why the end of the movie is so powerful because it's really hard to know, hey, which one of them is the creature, is one of them the creature? Like that's it's still a talking point literally decades later because of how well the movie structures its rules. It doesn't answer every question, but it has rules and they're followed. That's what's important.
I want
You
to be
have
clear. I'm not comparing this movie to The Thing because that is a cinematic masterpiece. I'm saying my point is that you can still do a good movie, a good horror movie, without explaining everything.
I agree with that. I just need to understand the base rules.
Yeah, and I
That's
think
all.
that this wasn't necessarily executed as good as the classic horror movies, but I think this is as good of a horror movie as most anything we've gotten in the past few years, short of maybe like Long Legs or the It movies, or it's a good mid-tier horror movie that I think was an interesting concept, and more out of the box than a lot of the other horror movies that we get. So we're gonna agree to disagree on that point. But I don't think we need to keep like arguing about that. But um, yeah, so Selma Blair's character gets home, and it turns out that she is part of the problem, and she goes and grabs a sawzall from the garage because the kids have locked themselves in the basement.
I meant to look that up. Is that a real brand of Sawzall?
Sawzall is not a brand. I don't. Maybe it is. Maybe it's like Kleenex, but it is a real tool
It is real.
that is
Okay.
called a Sawzall. Yeah.
Okay.
And a lot of different brands make those. So I
Gotcha.
think it's a type of tool, but it may have originally been a brand name of something. But yeah, Sawzall is definitely a real thing.
It
The
was where
one in
they
the
just
movie, I believe, was a Milwaukee brand. It
okay,
looked to
they
be
said it
Milwaukee.
so many times. I thought maybe it was product placement.
I thought, yeah, I can understand that. I don't think it is,
Okay.
but I'm sure somebody that's more knowledgeable about tools. I've used them before, but I've never cared to look into the history of the
Come on,
of the of
Ryan.
the word. But yeah, Nick is like, that's never gonna cut through this door. And she goes, it's called a sawzall. It'll saw anything. And so she initially goes at it, and it's just like flopping
but
all over the
but
door.
but his reaction is because he goes, educate me.
Yeah, yeah, it was so good. And this is when it starts getting like really crazy. And I honestly think that the performances from Selma Blair and Nick in this are what made the movie so enjoyable for me. Because you want to pick two actors that can pull off crazy like this role. You picked two of the best for that. Selma Blair is underutilized in Hollywood and does crazy like look at Hellboy. Hellboy, her character is not crazy, but has been crazy and can go crazy. But like she plays a character that is constantly on the verge of letting loose the crazy all the time, and she does it so well.
There's this shot in this movie, and I can't remember when it happens. It's later in the movie, like it's around this time, where like she's kind of like her normal self for a minute, and then her face just switches.
Yes.
She doesn't say anything, right? There's no like lighting effect. This is all her face. This is her doing this with her face, and you can just see the switch happen. Like she's
Yes.
great. Like this is not a knock on her or Nick when I am criticizing this movie. They're great in this, and if the entire movie was more like the final act, I'd probably like the movie a lot more. Because
Yeah.
this is the strongest part of the movie, the rest of
Oh, the
this.
final act was really quality. I would put it up with a lot of other much better horror movies based on the third act. But yet she is honestly a treasure, and I feel bad that she's not utilized more these days
Yeah, she's
because
she's so
she's
good.
got the skills to pay the bills,
Yeah.
and she does really good. Like you see her as like a loving mother in the beginning, and it's really believable. And even like you said, it when she's in like crazy mode, sometimes you're even like, okay, is she still crazy? Because she seems like she really does love these kids. But yeah, she's still like it's just her ability to transition like that is really, really good.
Well, and her character is arguably the most complex in this movie. I think clearly the most
Yeah.
complex in this because she is actually battling back and forth. Like we haven't gotten there yet, but later, there is this moment where she kind of gets reeled back into herself, and there are some moments and things like that. So I think because because she cares so much for her family, she isn't as sold on it as say Brent is, Nick's character,
Right.
right? She has a pull, a push and pull that nobody else seems to have.
Yeah. So as she's sawing through this door, uh, one of the younger kid
Josh.
apparently had a gun the whole time.
Jesus Christ.
So he was upstairs earlier in the movie when his sister found him before they came down to the basement. And apparently, when he was up there, he grabbed his dad's gun, and we get a flashback of like him playing with his dad's gun because his dad used his birthday as the password for the safe.
And for some reason, he's in his underwear and nothing else the whole
He's
time.
he's in his underwear and he's got his finger on the trigger and loads the gun. Now, granted, he doesn't rack the slide, at least that we see, so there's no round in the chamber at the very least, but it's still unnerving seeing this kid playing with this gun. But yeah, he apparently had this gun the whole time, even though this is a pretty small kid and this is a like not a compact firearm. I would say it's
No,
a full frame
it looked full
firearm.
frame to me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so somehow he has hidden this from his sister the whole time.
Well, he has a backpack.
Oh, that's true. He does have the
Yeah.
backpack. Yeah,
So,
I forgot about that.
yeah.
Yeah, so I guess it's not so bad, but he shoots through the door a couple of times and hits his mom.
It did catch me off guard. That I was not expecting.
Right. That the little kid was going to pull out a gun and be able to hit his mom through a door.
Through a door. Well, he does just get her arm. Like it's just a flesh wound. She's fine.
Yeah, it's very like Terminator, like Sarah Connor when she gets hit, it's like we have to go take care of this and like they just pour rubbing alcohol on it and wrap it up and she's like feeling nothing. Well, she does feel something when the rubbing alcohol hits, but like other than that, She's fine. She's like on the mission, which was
She's
great.
tough. Yeah.
That was really her transition into like, wow, this is a crazy person. Um, and so they decide that because of the gun, that their best bet is to gas the kids, which is horrifying but very creative. So they take a garden hose and tape it to the hose, the gas inlet for their stove, which
Hmm.
they've moved out of the way, run the hose all the way around the house, through a window in the basement, and then cover where that hose is coming in with dirt.
Hmm.
Which all of this is very clever on their
I
part.
mean, to an
They've thought it
extent,
through pretty well.
sort of. I mean, because the reason the kids survive is there's like a die-hard air vent that they can crawl through. So
Yeah.
isn't the gas just leaking into the rest of the house?
It's heavier than air, so it should stay in the
So it's
low
just
part of the
sinking?
house.
Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, so the kids, they're like, oh my God, it's probably one of the most like chilling parts of the movie is when they're discussing like how will we know when it's done? And then
Jesus
they're
Christ.
like, one of them's like, well, I'm sure they'll be coughing a lot. And then the other one is like, and maybe we'll hear them vomit. And like they're so excited to hear the vomiting of these kids that are dying of being gassed in the basement. And so the kids are clearly getting sicker. It's kind of unclear how much time has gone by, but the boyfriend, I want to be clear, is still unconscious in the living room.
And there was a moment where like Nick walks over him and the kid's eye flinches, and I wasn't sure if that was just the actor or if that was
Right.
supposed to be a sign that he was alive. I'm still not
Um,
sure.
yeah. Um, but so they're sitting by the door for a while, and they put duct tape over the bullet holes as if that's gonna really stop a lot of gas.
I mean, they did that, but they didn't do anything to like the bottom of the door.
Right. Or like, yeah, they didn't really seal around the door or anything, just like the bullet
So,
holes.
did you catch the really big problem with the door? So, this is something that once you notice it, it kind of, for me, blows a hole in the hole. Look how clever they are plan. So, the door opens out into the hallway.
Yeah.
So, why didn't they take the hinges off?
Well, I don't think it's that they couldn't get in because clearly they could get in with the Sawzall. It's that they didn't want to get shot. There was a kid with a loaded gun.
Right, but before they went to saw the door down, why didn't they just you take the hinges off? It would have taken 3 seconds. They would have gotten in so much faster. Who knows if the kid would have taken the gun out at that point? Because he was still
Well,
trying to get to his mom.
they had to establish the Sawzall as a character.
I know, but like logically, you just pop the hinges off.
I mean, logically, why didn't the dad just go get the gun and shoot the bolt off? Like, there's a million things they could have done.
I mean, that's a very
Why
good
didn't they
question.
grab a fire axe and chop through it like
Well, I don't know if
Johnny
they
in
because I don't know if
Sugar
they have
Shine?
one of those. They have the sawzall. I don't know. We know they have a gun, so that's a very good
We
point.
don't know that they have a screwdriver.
They have a
All the
sawzall, but
tools,
no screwdriver.
all the tools are in the basement from when he was building the pool table.
Then you need a throwaway line that says that. Why is the sawzall not down there?
Because you don't use a sawzall when you're assembling a pool table.
No, but he's finishing the basement. That's why the tools are down there.
You don't use a sawzall when you're finishing a basement. You
Really?
use it when you're destroying a basement.
Oh, okay. Right,
Sawzall
right.
are for destruction, not
Destruction
creating.
only. Okay. All right. My bad. My bad.
Yeah, thank you.
I voided my
Um,
warranty, apparently.
yeah, but when they're talking about like hearing the kids vomiting and stuff, they're like holding hands, and it's see like the movie's setting up that they're reconnecting with their love for each other over murdering their kids together, which is a very like dark horror comedy type thing to do. Um, there's okay, so I already mentioned that they had duct taped over like some parts of the door. Well, then the kids, the girl finds the duct, and
Mhm.
so she's like, "We're gonna go through here." But before that, she sets up a trap, and
Yeah.
she also has duct tape because she has to duct tape a match to the door and put like the match
This is some MacGyver shit here,
right.
man.
But why do they have duct tape in so many different rooms of the house?
I mean, my only thought there is they've got all that shit in the basement because he's been finishing the basement
Do you
himself.
use a lot of duct tape when you're finishing things?
I mean, it's with my tools. Like if I bring my toolbox in, it's in my toolbox.
Right, but then do you keep a second roll in like someplace that's not your toolbox?
I'm sure I have more in the
Okay,
garage. I mean, I
whatever.
just do. Like, I
It
don't know.
seemed a little crazy
I'm not
that they would
organized.
have.
You see all this shit behind me? I'm not organized, all
It
right?
seems a little crazy that they would have so much duct tape in
Yeah,
this house
that's what seems crazy.
in this whole
That's the
movie.
crazy part. Not her MacGyvering this like match lighter system with the door.
That's not that hard.
Oh,
I don't
come
understand
on.
the problem with that. You're literally just taping a match or three matches to the door right along the strip. I don't really see what the problem is there.
Okay.
Anyway, eventually they hear like vomiting noises and then the kids get silent. So they're like, I think we can go in there now. So they open the door and we get our slow-mo Nicolas Cage being blown up by a fireball moment.
Thrown back through a door into the
But we didn't
pantry.
know that. At the time, we thought me and my partner that was watching the movie with me were like, wasn't there like a wall behind him? Where did he go
Yeah,
through?
it's a
And
door.
eventually, yeah, we saw it when it showed him again, but it doesn't show him for a little bit in here. And the mom
No, he's
gets
gone for a
Selma
while.
Blair gets her like moment. And she's chasing the kids. She's trying to choose between a knife and a like meat tenderizer,
It's a tough
and she
choice.
chooses the meat tenderizer that's already been used to massacre one kid.
Yeah,
So yeah, she hears them come out of like the attic because apparently this vent went up to the attic,
sure.
and it goes down through where like the attic fan would be, I guess. And
As someone who has an attic fan and a basement, I have no vent like that. I don't know what that's supposed to be. I don't know.
I don't know, but yeah, they come out. The daughter drops down out of the attic, and the mom hears it and starts attacking her.
Hmm.
And so they're kind of like wrestling, and then the boyfriend wakes up. And the great news about
Yay!
this is that he's completely fine. No concussion, no drowsiness, no nothing. He is able to be at 100% capacity immediately after waking up from being slammed on his head by Nicolas Cage.
To be fair, we don't know how long he was conscious.
Yeah, I guess he could have just been laying there watching all this happen and pretended to be unconscious.
Obviously,
But
I don't mean that.
yeah, so but then the boyfriend wakes up and he helps the daughter trap the mom in a closet. And so for some reason, the daughter and the boyfriend start like bonding, and like she falls in love with him again, and she like wants to kiss him and like lets go of the door, and because the mom seemingly calmed down, and so they forgot that there was a rabid child killing mom in this closet, and so the mom like you talk about MacGyvering rigs up like a wire hanger to like reach out as a weapon. And somehow this thing without bending hooks the boyfriend through the cheek, which I can tell Derek doesn't like by the way he's moving his mouth. He did not like that scene.
No, no.
But yeah, it hooks him through the cheek, and yeah, so that it was pretty gross. And he's like, they're like fighting the mom, and
But I was so annoyed in this scene though, because when the door is closed, there's something hanging from one of the doorknobs that they
they
easily could
could
have
have locked it.
used.
We said the same thing, just
Yeah,
like put it around the doorknobs.
God, I'm like, come on, guys. Like this is the same girl who just MacGyvered the matchbook thing. That she figures out, but she can't just tie this thing around these two doorknobs.
Yeah. Well, also the other thing I want to point out is that that gun that we mentioned earlier disappeared for the entire rest of the movie.
Yeah, we never see it again.
Never see it again. Only fired two shots from
It's
a
in the
full
basement
magazine.
somewhere.
Yeah, it's or not. Maybe the son still has it and he
I
just never
actually
uses it again.
I thought that this was good. I thought it was going to come up at the very tail end of the movie because of the way the movie ends. I thought it was going to come up and it doesn't.
No.
You know.
Yeah, so my next note was where did the gun go? So yeah, so right after the boyfriend gets hooked through the cheek, and you're like, oh, that's rough. And he pulls it out of his cheek. He goes to help his girlfriend try and like wrestle his mom so that she doesn't die. And he gets thrown over the railing and lands on his head again.
Hmm.
Yeah.
He's fine. Don't worry about it.
I'm sure he'll walk it off in a couple hours, just like he did the last time.
This guy really takes a lot of punishment.
He is I don't even know what he is. He is the Punisher, if you're talking in terms of durability. This guy can take so much damage and shrug it off. It's crazy. Um, yeah, so we find out Nick's alive because it shows him getting up from this closet thing or whatever he got blown into his pantry, and he has Fruit Loops stuck to his face, which I thought was a really
That was
great
very funny.
choice.
Yeah. It's a
Um,
good callback to earlier in the movie.
yeah, and he grabs the Sawzall and he just like screams Sawzall and says that it saws through all
That's
or
right.
something like that.
Yeah. The
And so
Sawzall saws all.
him and the wife have the kids cornered in the kitchen and they're just taking their sweet time. And the doorbell rings.
Jesus Christ.
And I had completely forgot about the grandparents at this point, but I got so excited as soon as I realized, oh shit, the grandparents are here and they probably have the same shit going on. And
It's,
they did. The
oh my
movie
God.
delivered. The old ass grandparents want to kill their kid, even though the mom is not. I mean, the Selma Blair's character is not a kid of theirs.
Well,
It's a
they're not interested in
daughter-in-law.
her initially.
That's true. I guess she was trying to protect her husband.
Yeah.
But yeah, they want to kill the son, and Selma Blair is like, "Don't kill your son," even though
Well,
she,
but you're skipping over like when he opens the door, his mom just maces him right in the
yes,
face at point
immediately,
blank range.
yeah,
It's just incredible. Because like his parents, like
everything with the grandparents is incredible,
they're like
honestly.
70, 80 years old, you know.
And the dad is a Vietnam War veteran, and it's been established in the movie, and probably killed a lot of people. And so
Mm.
he stabs Nicholas, and Nick is like, "You killed me, Dad," and he's clearly still alive. It's
Nick does get stabbed a lot at this point
he
in the
gets
movie.
stabbed several times. Yeah, yeah. Um, and this is when we cut to the scene because they go out to the Trans Am. The younger kid, goes and hides in the Trans Am, and Nick finds him. And then it cuts to the scene with him and his son talking about what happened with the dead animal or whatever it was in the car. And my favorite part of that scene, with how inappropriate of a dad is, when he of that Nick is, when he basically performs cunnilingus on the beer can.
Mm.
He's talking about how much pussy he got in this Trans Am, and he's got this beer can, and he just like tongues the shit out of this beer can for a few seconds. It's so disturbing. And it just establishes how bad of a dad he was. And maybe the kids were happy, but I don't think the kids knew how bad of a dad he was.
Mm-mm.
Surely that kid would have had to get therapy later on for this moment. But yeah, my note was cunnilingus on beer can talking about Trans Am.
Yeah.
And so Nick gets in and like starts the car and he's trying to like
No,
ram.
the kid starts
Oh, the
the
kid
car.
starts it. Well, they're like some I don't remember who's gassing it and who's braking and whatever else, but they're like the car is moving and slamming against the garage door.
Well, so the kid gets out because Nick is like chasing after him, and Nick comes in, but as Nick is chasing after him, falling into the car, his dad shows up and is stabbing him. So Nick is trying to get away from his dad who's stabbing him. So he, I think, uses his hand to hit the gas.
That's right, and backs up and slams into his mom,
Well,
who
they
then
break through the garage door.
yeah, the mom is out in the driveway and he like does a
Fishtails.
sick power slide into his mom, and we get the slow mo of
Jesus Christ.
a terrible CGI grandma flying over like the T tops that have been busted out of this Trans Am. It's amazing. But we get a point for Nick Rex card because that is on
Yay.
at least a potential square for a bingo card. And then the boyfriend wakes up and he's fine again. But all the parents are either dead or unconscious at this point. So they like from their perspective, we see them waking up in the basement tied to like one of the support pillars with duct tape and wire. Like they doubled it up, it
Mhm.
looked like. Um
How did the
and
grandpa die?
he got flung off the car,
He got flung off the car. Okay.
I think. Um anyway, They start having this conversation with their kids about, oh, please let us go. We love you, kids. We love you. And then Nick starts to say, sometimes we just want to, and then the movie ends.
Yep.
Mid
That's the movie.
sentence.
That's it. That's the fucking movie, man.
Yep.
I mean, I don't know what to say otherwise. Here's a weird question. So let's say you were like you didn't know you had a kid, right? Or you had put your kids up for adoption and had no idea in the world where they were. Would you still like all of a sudden be drawn to them?
I think it's impossible to say based on the rules presented in this movie.
Okay.
So usually at this point in the movie or in the podcast,
Uh,
we go through some 1-star reviews and some 10-star reviews just to see if maybe there's something we missed. And we want to get out of our little box here between the two of us and see if maybe we were a little too harsh or something that might change our opinion. So, which would you like me to start with, Derek? The 1-star or the 10-star?
we're gonna start with the 10 stars this time. Because I want to end on the 1 stars. I think that's important.
Alrighty. Let's see. For the 10 stars, it looks like what is considered the most helpful 10-star review by IMDb is by a person named S_Soma, who says, on the face of it, Mom and Dad is an oddball horror film about parents who suddenly and inexplicably turn into homicidal maniacs, but only with respect to their own children. However, I'm frankly astounded at the number of reviewers, professional and amateur alike, who seem, from my perspective, to completely fail to get what Mom and Dad was about. In order to explain, I'll have to depart from my normal style of movie review. I think this guy is kind of targeting you, Derek.
All right, let's see.
Once upon a time, very long ago, cheap and cheesy horror movies of the drive-in theater variety had a certain unmistakable style to them. To really grasp this style would require viewing of a collection of such movies to get a feel for them, but in lieu of that, I'll give a list of common characteristics presented by such films. The basic presentation could only be called lurid, outlandish, and over the top. Lower quality film stock was used to reduce production costs, making the movie look sort of blurry and mushy, bordering on out of focus. The sound was of poor quality, oversaturated and dull, featuring a narrow frequency range. A lot of the music had the sense of being canned in stock, often jarringly orchestral, sometimes almost drowning out the dialogue and sound effects and feeling inappropriate to the scene, like the music you would hear in porno flicks most of the time, just sort of stuck on. There's almost always constant overuse of low angle upshot, giving many scenes and characters a distorted and menacing look. Shots of people's faces would be far too close up, giving their features a distorted and unpleasant perspective, and so on. Mom and Dad is, in effect, sort of an art house film. It's made to be an homage to low-budget horror films from about 4 decades ago. It takes the setting of present day and applies the horror filmmaking sensibilities of 40 years ago. And may I say, in my opinion, it does so perfectly, and also it should be judged accordingly. Does any of that... you do a whole horror podcast.
No, I
None of
do.
that seems like it's really realistic to you?
I think I think that requires some leaps and assumptions on why and how the movie was made the way that it was. And a lot of the older horror films, not all of them, I am not saying all of them, but a lot of the older horror films were made that way because they had no choice but to make them that way. I mean, the first Evil Dead is an incredible example of that. They had like 5 grand to make the first Evil Dead. It's made by film students. Like they didn't have a choice. You've got Nicolas Cage and Selma Blair, you've got a director who has done a Marvel movie, right? So like you had choices. So you can't artificially recreate what was done out of necessity. It just doesn't really work when you
Can I
do
ask
that.
you about a different movie and see if
Sure,
that... did you ever see Snakes on a Plane with Samuel L. Jackson?
I did.
Okay.
So here's
That
the thing.
was clearly made to be a B movie, but had the budget of an A movie. Why would that one work and this does not?
So
What's
first
your...
off, I never said it worked. I said I
No,
saw
no,
it.
no. But a lot of people would say that
Because
that was a good movie.
well, okay, I would need to talk to those people.
Fair enough.
I
You
I
don't agree
think
that's a good movie.
I think Snakes on a Plane, Soap, works better than this movie because it is more consistent throughout, and it is consistent in its ridiculousness, in its sarcasm, in its just tongue-in-cheek behavior. Get these motherfucking snakes off this motherfucking plane. Like Samuel L. Jackson is basically playing a caricature of himself in that movie. This movie is two different movies. The third act is not the same movie as the first two acts of this movie. And I think that is a big part of its problem. The first two acts of this movie are a serious, dark horror film. And the final act is Evil Dead 2. And doing them both in the same movie, it doesn't really work that way. You have to have some more consistency throughout the film. This goes from deeply serious to completely ridiculous at the end of the movie. Whereas, like, comparing it to the old horror films, they're kind of ridiculous throughout the movie, and you're kind of making laughs and you're jibing at it and stuff throughout the whole movie. It's not, wow, this was like really grounded and then went off the rails. This movie jumps the shark at one point, and you have to start there and go through it the whole way.
See, I think this is where I'm going to disagree with you because for me, your big point was that you can't artificially create the feeling of Evil Dead where they were making a movie on a shoestring budget, and you can't do that when you have two, world-class actors and a lot of money. You can't recreate that. And I think that this came pretty close, in my opinion. But I also think that, a movie like Snakes on a Plane was clearly a higher budget movie that was attempting to emulate the style of lower budget,
But
like,
I'm not saying it succeeded in that though.
Sharknado. I know you're not saying that. A lot of people would say that that movie succeeded that. I would disagree. And that's one movie where I would be more on your side where it didn't work. Trying to take that kind of aesthetic that was forced on those filmmakers and applying it to a movie where it's not forced. But I think this movie actually came closer to that feeling than Snakes on a Plane did, because that movie felt more forced. This movie felt not as forced, in my opinion,
Oh, I don't
to
think the
be
movie
that
felt
style of movie to be that style of movie that it was trying to emulate.
I don't think this was forced. I'm not saying it felt forced. That's not what I mean to say. I don't think this movie feels like what that person is claiming it's supposed to feel like. This to me does not feel like Friday the 13th Part 3, or Halloween 4, the return of Michael Myers. Like, it doesn't feel like those movies. It feels like a modern B horror film that doesn't really know what it wants to be.
Fair enough.
The first half of this movie is not a comedy. The end of the movie is a comedy.
I think it depends on who you ask.
I mean, I don't really know that, like, what's something funny that happens in the first act of this movie.
Well, I mean, some people would say that Nick making fun of the kid getting left on the train tracks is comedic.
Okay. So,
I listen. I'm not going to say
does that
you
make it a
clearly.
comedy?
I mean, scenes that are set up to make someone laugh would be a comedy. I mean, it's just because it doesn't make you laugh.
No, 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 no. I didn't say I didn't like chuckle at it, but I don't think that a character making a joke in a movie makes the movie a
Well,
comedy.
that's not the only joke and the only funny thing in the movie. I mean,
No,
a
but
series of funny things happening in the movie can make it a comedy. I think we're getting way off in the weeds here.
I think the final act of the movie is what people want the movie to be. And I agree with that. If that was the whole movie, I think that this maybe would have succeeded in a much more kind of tongue-in-cheek B horror movie kind of way. I think it takes too long to get there.
Okay. Again, I think we're getting a little into the weeds a little bit here. We've been going at that
I mean, look, that
point for a
analysis
while.
that you read goes into like the sound quality and the shots. Like, honestly, I think a lot of the shots were done as an excuse to do like almost upskirts on teen girls wearing school uniforms. That would
Because
be my
they never did that in classic horror movies.
Of course they did. But here's the thing about that. A lot of them got in trouble for doing those types of things because it was a problem, right? And we've supposed to have moved on from doing those types of
But
things
you
in
just said
movies, right?
almost. It was all these shots were almost that, but they weren't that. They were
No, no,
just
no.
meant to give you the same feeling that maybe that would have.
I think it was kind of used as an excuse to do those things. Just like
Okay.
look, this movie had no reason to have nudity in it at all,
I don't disagree with
right? But
that.
they shoehorned in a scene that wasn't even shot for this movie so it could have some boobs
But
in
to
it.
be fair, a lot of old horror movies have boobs in them that didn't need to be and didn't serve any relevance to the plot.
But those horror movies created the trope that, by the way, I disagree with, that it was like the sexual activity and sexual promiscuity that caused these demon slashers to go after these kids, right? So the whole point of it was the nudity. So that's my point,
Sometimes.
but
That's not
that's
every horror movie.
nothing's every horror movie. But that goes back to why I feel like you can't do it on purpose in a modern film this way. It doesn't work like this.
Okay. Yeah, basically this guy just really loved this movie. I'm not gonna get into it any
That's
further
fine.
because I feel
It's
like
fine.
we're gonna be talking about this back and forth for an hour if we don't move on. But yeah, there's a good amount of people that agree with him. Um,
Yeah, there's 1,000 1-star reviews. There's 1,010-star reviews. There's also 1,001
no,
star reviews.
there's 16 10-star reviews and 56 1-star reviews.
Oh, written ones. I'm sorry. I'm
Written reviews. Yeah, yeah.
sorry. I was looking at just the star reviews.
I'm gonna go to the Derrick style reviews, which are the 1-star reviews.
I didn't
Um,
give it a one.
This person said, with 56 thumbs up, says literally the worst movie I've ever seen. Horrible
Man,
editing, storyline makes no sense, and the movie has no ending. I will never get that time back. It was an hour 26,
yeah, it's
bro.
not a long movie, dude.
I'm literally pissed that I watched it all. That was from David McCoy. Classy Joe 19 says, best worst movie in a long time. Never have I ever been a fan of Brian Taylor's absolutely atrocious direction, which I wouldn't necessarily agree with. Atrocious is a pretty strong word, and this is definitely the last of all the chances I've given to his work. I saw the trailer and was temporarily sold on the idea. And boy, when you witness this colossal mess unfold before your eyes, you know you'll need all the nachos to digest this 83 minutes of your precious life, which unfortunately you're never getting back. It's almost shameful that an idea as creative as parents going all Ted Bundy on their own children is wasted to such proportions. A sloppy mess with some of Taylor's convoluted signatures makes this movie absolutely passable. And it's a mess because you realize very early on that the movie itself is unfolding in the most incoherent and frustrating way possible. Watch at your own risk. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
Liberal says complete mess of a movie, another cage bomb, uninteresting, shallow
uh,
characters, typical gore fest, and really bad dialogue. Not even good for DVD.
I
It's
didn't think it was
basically
that gory, but
a lot of movie, a lot of people saying, who in their right mind would ever think this movie is better than a one? It's garbage. It's stupid. No bottom to the well. Stupid storyline. Another cage cash in.
this is the
Um,
problem though with in general 10 and 1-star reviews, right? Because the reality is this is not a masterpiece. I don't care who you are, I don't care what you've watched. It's not a masterpiece of cinema. It's also not pure trash. There is room in between those two perspectives, and this falls in between those two perspectives,
I would say
right?
that the third act even would maybe have some flashes of brilliance from either the actors or the scenes or the way, like the overall thing.
The third act is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah, like that's the thing. Like this is not a trash movie, but it is certainly not a Academy Award winning masterpiece either.
Well, no,
You
I'm not
know,
going to argue
so
that.
it's it has to like it falls somewhere in between. Okay, there are very few movies that really deserve a 1 or a 10. Pig's a 10 for me. A 10 out of
Yeah.
10 for me is Pig,
And
right?
Zondali is a 1 out of 10 for you.
Was did I give it a 1 or did I give it a 2? I feel like I
Well, you
gave it a
gave it a
2.
2, but if you're going to 10 and you
Oh,
cut that in
that's true.
half, then it would
That's
be a
true.
1.
Yeah, so all right, our Cage-o-meter. So if you're just joining us, welcome to the show.
Yeah.
Thanks for sticking
Sorry about the
around.
last 40 minutes of arguing about incessant things.
Um, hey, maybe that's better. We're usually pretty in sync on these. So we have a 20-point scale because Nick is in a lot of productions. He's in like 120 something at this point, and the number keeps growing. So we have a 20-point scale. One is low and 20 is high. So to Ryan's point, if we gave something a 2, then on a normal 10-point scale, that's really a 1. So that's a fair point. So we need to grade this. We have two scales that we grade off of: overall quality and overall caginess. So, we can be all over the place on these. Ryan, let's start with you on quality.
Sure.
Where would you rate the
I
quality
have a
of
feeling
Mom and Dad?
you are tossing this one to me to start so that you can gauge how much lower you want to go than what I say.
No, no, no.
Um,
I have a sense of where I want to put it.
okay.
If you go high enough, maybe I'll rethink that and move it up. But I have a sense of where I want to put it. But
So for me, this is in the average range of Nick Cage movies, but I do think it's on the higher end of average, mostly because of the third act of the movie. Um, and because Nick really got to like go crazy. And along with Selma Blair, who is really it's really fun to watch those two go crazy together. So for me, from a quality perspective, I'm putting it at 12, which is on the higher end of what I consider average
okay.
in a Nick Cage movie. I was tough. It was between a 12 and a 13 for me, but I do think after talking to you that maybe some of the things that a lot of what I liked about it was just one part of the movie. And there was, you know, other parts that need to be taken into account too. So yeah, I think that the third act carries everything, not everything, the majority of what I enjoyed about the movie. Um, so I have to take it down a little bit from where I was, but I did enjoy this movie much more than I thought I would, and I do agree to an extent, maybe not quite as heavily with that first review that a lot of it was done as an homage to specific types of films to varying levels of success. But yeah, for me, it's on the high end of average with the 12.
Okay, so we're not as far off as maybe you and I thought we might be after this conversation. I agree that it's in the average range as well. I went back and forth a little bit on a 9 or a 10. I was having a really hard time deciding. It is better than some of the 9s that I have given out. It is not as good as some of the 10s that I have given out. And so I really did kind of go back and forth on this one, and I did decide to go with a 9 because I think the third act is very, very good, but it's only one third of the movie. So I went with a 9. That gives it a 10.5, which does put it on the positive side
Right.
of average at the end of the day. Then we have caginess. And this one is interesting. It's clearly cagey.
Yeah.
Clearly
Even
cagey.
Selma Blair gets cagey in this one.
She's good in this. I like her so much.
Yeah.
And she is good. She is, to me, probably the best part of the movie. No offense to Nick. You know, I love Nick. She's great in this. I really like her a lot.
Yeah.
But I don't want to go too crazy on the caginess because, obviously there's some iconic stuff here. So I was thinking, man, a, I'm gonna say a 15.
Oh, okay. I'm gonna give it a 16. I mean, a
Okay.
15 I think is reasonable, but he was pretty cagey throughout the entirety of this movie. It obviously goes on the deep end, you know, towards the third act, but even in the early parts when he was like threatening, like being threateningly playful with his son, even that was cagey in its own way. So I don't know. It's maybe not as much as like a Vampire's Kiss or some of
Sure.
the other crazy ones we've done, but it's still pretty cagey.
Well, the reason I went with a 15 is we gave a 16 to Prisoners of the Ghostland and Willy's Wonderland. And I feel like this isn't quite there.
I think it's on the same level as both of those
So,
personally, but
well, I gave Spirit of Vengeance a 15,
yeah,
which is interesting. I didn't realize that till I was just looking. So that's kind of funny that but same director, Brian Taylor, I gave both of his a 15 on caginess. So 15 and a half. So 10 and a half on quality and a 15 and a half
and
on
clearly
caginess.
this director knows how to take advantage of his actors. I mean, Nicholas he lets Nicolas Cage be Nicolas Cage. I mean, the two
Well, I mean,
Nicolas Cage movies are both 15s from you, so
yeah. And you look, he gave Selma some really interesting stuff to do. I think part of it for me is I just would like more information. I would like more detail. I would like I want to
honestly, I
know
want to
what
see a sequel
happened.
to this.
I want to know what happened. I want to know how this ended. One of the cool things we talked about Shaun of the Dead a bit. One of the cool things about Shaun of the Dead is we do kind of get that epilogue of what happened after the world had to go back to normal. And yes, it's done in a satirical, tongue-in-cheek way. This could have gone that route or not. We don't know, but that was nice to kind of see like, well, how did the world move on after such a crazy thing happened? Because there are so many odd similarities between the
Yeah.
two movies.
Overall, I think the premise is really interesting. And it could have been done better for sure. But it could have been a very interesting like trilogy almost, to kind of explain have one to kind of explain the origins of the thing, one to explain the aftermath of the thing. You know what I mean? You could do a lot with this premise. That would be interesting. But
Well, it's such a short movie.
yeah.
It's like an hour and 20 minutes.
Oh, they
And
could have expanded it out a little bit. Yeah.
right, I think maybe if we had had more time with the family on the day to day, and also like I think if the main girl Carly, if she had been more likable,
Yeah, true.
that would have been good. Because like so early on in the movie, there's no one for me to grasp to. Because the only likable character at that early on in the movie is Selma, and she's just really sad.
Yeah.
And so I've just felt very disconnected from the movie early on. And by the time you're into it, whatever. But there you go. So a 10.5 on quality, a 15.5 on caginess puts it just into the positive on average overall there. Now we have to figure out what movie joins our Wheel O Cage. So for those who do not watch the show, we have a wheel. We call it our Wheel O Cage. We spin it and it picks whatever movie we're going to watch next. We have to pull this movie, Mom and Dad, off the wheel, and we have to replace it with something, our ever shortening list of available movies. And joining the wheel, now eligible to be picked, is Drive Angry.
I keep getting advertisements for this one, so
Yeah.
I'm excited to see it.
Very cool. So lots of good stuff on the wheel right now. Drive Angry just joined. We've got the first Ghost Rider, Kick Ass, Long Legs, The Surfer, Wild at Heart, Color Out of Space. Just a few of the ones that are available on the wheel. They could be picked tonight because we record the wheel after we record our episode to pick the
That's
next
right.
movie. So go check out our Wheel O Cage. Check out Cageo Bingo. See if either of us got a bingo on this one. Go to comingofcage.com for all of our links. You can subscribe to the Coming of Cage podcast on your podcast app of choice. You can also watch us on the Derrico Studios YouTube channel. Ryan, anything else for Mom and Dad?
No, I think we pretty much beat it to death with a meat tenderizer.
God. Fair enough. All right. Well, thank you for watching and or listening, everybody. I'm Derek. That's Ryan.
See you next time.